Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. And this is Mati-Ullah-Khattak teaching you English. Today we are going to discuss the questions given at the end of the lesson, Glory and Hope. Give a close attention to all these questions that will be discussed one by one and try to note them down in your notebook. So let us discuss these questions. Who are the people Nelson Mandela is addressing and what is the occasion? So this question has already been discussed during the explanation of the chapter, but you will see it once again over here. Nelson Mandela is addressing both the South Africans, both the South Africans and international audience. The audience included heads of different states. Heads of different states means the presidents. Heads of state refers to the president, and head of government refers to the prime minister. So heads of different states mean the presidents. And other dignitaries. Dignitaries means office holders, men in powers. So in other dignitaries including distinguished guests, comrades and friends at the auspicious occasion. Auspicious occasion, an occasion which promise bright future. So they were heading toward a bright future. That's why the writer calls this occasion an auspicious occasion. Auspicious means which promises bright future. This was the oath-taking ceremony of Nelson Mandela. So remember that you have to write in N, M, and M of Nelson Mandela in capital. So this is oath-taking ceremony. He is taking an oath of this office as the president of South Africa. When he was elected democratically as the first president of South Africa on May 10, 1994. So keep in mind the length of the question, the tense being used here is addressing. You cannot say was addressing because the question is in the present tense. Who are the people? So Nelson Mandela is addressing. Nelson Mandela is addressing. You cannot say will be addressing, or you cannot say has been addressing. It will be wrong to write such sentences. So keep the tense in mind and the spellings. Comrades, not comrade, guests, friends, all of them are written in plural. Auspicious, important spelling for MCQs as well. So keep this in mind. The next question is, and the point of his being elected as the prime minister, the date should be kept in mind. What figurative language does Nelson Mandela use to communicate his profound feelings? Profound feelings, deep feelings of patriotism and sense of belonging to his homeland. This question has also been discussed during the explanation of the chapter. So you can see it once again here. What figurative language? Figurative language means what similes, metaphors, personification or allusions does he use while making his speech. So Nelson Mandela was a great orator. You should know who is orator. One who is expert in making speeches is known orator. So he was a great orator. He knows how to use the best words at the best occasion. He chooses his words very intelligently. Let us see the question. Nelson Mandela uses the most beautiful and moving language. Moving language that touches the heart. Such a language is called moving language, to express his feelings of patriotism and sense of belonging to his homeland. He has made use of similes For example, he says each of us is intimately attached, closely attached to the soil of this beautiful country, is our famous jacaranda trees of Pretoria and mimosa trees of Bushwick. So this is an example of simile. He tells the audience that we have the same relationship with this land as our mimosa and jacaranda and mimosa are attached to the lands of Pretoria and Bushwick. He says each time one of us touches the soil of this land, whenever we touch the soil of this land, we feel a sense of personal renewal. We feel that we are entering into a new agreement with this land, that we shall protect this land at all possible cost. He was a great orator. It seems that he has full communication power and skills. He had great power and skill in communicating his feelings to the fellow man. The next question: what was the situation like in South Africa before this very celebration of liberty and glory that Nelson Mandela is speaking about? So as you had learned in the explanation of the chapter, that they were passing through the worst condition ever in the history of South Africa. They were rejected by the world. They were called the skunk of the world, and no one was going near to them. So let us see the question. Before this very celebration of liberty and glory, the situation in South Africa was extremely bad. There was absolute discrimination between the communities on the basis of caste and color. So they discriminated communities from one another on the basis of caste and color. Many laws and measures were designed to oppress the rights of black people. So there were different laws designed to oppress the rights of black people. They were oppressed and maltreated. Maltreated means they were badly treated. Black people were living in the bondage of poverty, in the chains of poverty. They were kept under the chains of poverty. They were deprived. They were suffering difficulties. There was gender discrimination and other sorts of discrimination. South Africa was a universal base of pernicious ideology. Pernicious ideology, very harmful ideology, very detrimental ideology, which is very harmful ideology and practice of racism, and it was the center of racism. Racism was working at top in South Africa. So it was the center of racism and pernicious ideology, this very harmful ideology. What emancipation and liberation is Nelson Mandela speaking about? So emancipation, liberation, freedom. Freedom from what? Nelson Mandela is speaking about political and racial emancipation. They got political freedom and they got racial freedom, which they have achieved after a long struggle against apartheid system. This racial discrimination system, they struggle against this system, and in the long run, they were free to achieve their due rights. Now all the people will enjoy equal rights. All the communities will live together with equal opportunities. He is speaking about emancipation from racism and racial oppression. So he is speaking about what? Racism. That we shall not differentiate one from the other on the basis of coming from a different race. There will be no racial oppression. No race will be oppressed by the other. He is celebrating the victory of justice. They were celebrating this victory of what? It was the victory of justice, peace and human dignity. That human beings will be respected in the future. They will no more be disrespected. They will no more be degraded and on the land of South Africa. So they were celebrating this success. The next question is, what does Nelson Mandela mean by South Africa being once the skunk of the world? The skunk of the world, the most disliked thing in the whole world. It means that once the people of South Africa were hated by other communities means the nations of the world. They were disliked. They were considered the most contemptible people in the world, the most hateable people in the world, contemptible, despicable, that should be hated. The people of South Africa were given no respect or love by the rest of the world because of pernicious ideology and practice of racism. Due to apartheid system, South Africa not only went through poverty, it was not only suffering from poverty, deprivation, racial and gender discrimination, but it was rejected with contempt and isolated by the countries of the world. The countries of the world rejected them and asked them that you are the most disliked community or country in the whole world. So, considering that South Africa was once the skunk of the world, why does Nelson Mandela give his speech the title Glory and Hope? Glory of what and hope for what? So, the title of speech Glory and Hope expresses the vision and expectations of Nelson Mandela regarding South Africa. He has a vision and he has certain expectations to see in the future about South Africa. And there is glory for the peaceful, non-violent freedom from Russian oppression. So he has this dream that there will be peace, there will be no violation, and there will be freedom from Russian oppression. There is glory for the justice of human dignity, non-sexism, non-racialism, and democracy. He talks about the glorious achievement and hope for the prosperity, equality, and lasting justice. He hopes firmly that freedom will rule on the South African land. What does Nelson Mandela mean by a rainbow nation at peace with itself and the world? It means that South Africa is a country where people of different colors and caste live together. After their freedom, there is no concept of the white and the black. They will live together without any discrimination. They will enjoy equal opportunities and there will be complete harmony among them. Just like a rainbow, this harmonious relation of heterogeneous people of different kind, from different origin, they will not only help them live peacefully but also enable them to develop good relations with the rest of the world. So different people from different origin, they will live in peace and they will work for the progress of this nation. The next question is, what does Nelson Mandela mean by humanity has taken us back into its bosom? Who were outlaws not so long ago? Outlaws, as I had told you during the explanation of the chapter, rebellious people. So they were not long ago a rebellious nation. Nelson Mandela means that humanity has shown love and affection for the black people and brought them under legal protection. He means to say that they have now become dignified human beings, respected human beings once again in the eyes of the world. But before this, they were considered the most miserable human beings on the surface of the earth. They are not isolated from the rest of the world anymore. They were suffering from lawlessness. Outlaws means lawlessness. There was no law a few years ago. But now they have achieved a political accepted status. Politically accepted status they have achieved through this democratic setup. Nelson Mandela uses another word, liberty, in his speech, which Dr. King doesn't. Are they different in meanings or similar? The words liberty and freedom are often used as synonym. They are synonym for each other, but there is a difference in the scope. The choice of word is according to the situation. Freedom is actually one's right to say or act freely without any restriction. Liberty, on the other hand, is one's right to live as one like. We can say that the word liberty has a wider scope. So these two words are synonym, but sometimes they are used in different context. Freedom is something natural. You can say liberty is one